We've been seeing more and more talk around kind of the blatant disrespect and even hatred for women that's been making its way into the kind of worst corners of society and fueling violence. And actually, one of the most recent example that's being talked about the most that's popped up in the news is last week's attack on a California mosque. Because if you don't remember, on May 18th, two teenagers killed 3 people and then themselves at the Islamic Center of San Diego. And after the attack, a 75-page manifesto came out showing that the attacker's motive was firmly rooted in far-right neo-Nazi thinking. But also, there was a significant chunk of that manifesto that was dedicated to ranting against women, or describing them as the quote, #1 enemy after Jews. And with that, if you're thinking, wow, Phil, neo-Nazis, hating women, groundbreaking stuff, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be wrong. But this type of misogyny, it is becoming an essential component for far-right extremism in ways that are kind of all things considered pretty new. Or with Heidi Beirich, the co-founder of the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism, saying, he just flat out says he hates women and that they're the devil and they're destroying everything. And this is an important thing because that kind of misogyny did not exist in white supremacist circles, say, 10, 15 years ago, with some experts even drawing parallels between misogyny and anti-Semitism. With that including Alex DeFranco, the executive director and co-founder of the Institute for Research on Male Supremacism, saying that the same way that anti-Semitism is the foundation for white nationalist thinking and it's often rooted in conspiracy theories, misogyny has taken a similar role. And adding, we've seen similar kinds of conspiratorial thinking about women pulling the strings behind the scenes as well. DeFranco even helped develop the framework to study this train of thought, calling them anti-feminist conspiracies. With another example being the neo-Nazi attack in Norway back in 2011, where 77 people, including dozens of teenagers, were killed at a summer camp. And the guy who did it left behind a bunch of writings outlining his reasoning, with DeFranco saying that manifesto was very clear as well about the fact that he saw feminism and women responsible for the feminization of the West and of Europe. They were responsible for what he views as a Muslim invasion. And adding, he adhered to another conspiracy theory called cultural Marxism. He talked about anti-political correctness, and all of those things he actually rooted with the idea of feminism of Western women as the key problem. Right? It's the idea of cultural degeneracy, which researchers say has long been connected to femininity and the excessive expression of femininity. And specifically attributing it to the Nazis, with DeFranco saying white supremacists, quote, feel like they had a system in which cisgender white men were supreme and had unshaken dominance. And now these other forces, what they call cultural degeneracy, are undermining that control that they felt they had a right to. And that idea found its way to those who are willing to commit violence, with Heidi Beirich saying, it has completely infected the white supremacist realm. Misogyny is as important, I would argue, as racism or neo-Nazism now to people that traffic in these kinds of ideas and live in these cultures. But one of the problems that these experts are pointing out here about the scholarship and the news coverage of this connection is just it's not keeping up with how fast this problem is spreading. And making it scarier is that far-right terrorism in general is getting kind of the blind eye from our federal government at the moment. Right, just this month, the White House released the 2026 United States Counterterrorism Strategy document, which outlined their plans and priorities for protecting the homeland, and did highlight narco-terrorists, Islamist terrorists, and violent left-wing extremists. But nowhere does it say anything about far-right, neo-Nazi, or white supremacist threats. With Colin Clark, the executive director of a global security nonprofit, saying, far-right terrorism is alive and well, but you wouldn't know it from reading this document, saying this is an unserious document written by unserious people about a deadly serious subject. And later adding, it's quite dangerous. It makes the country less safe because it shows you what this administration is focused on and what it's not focused on, where we're going to dedicate resources and where we're not going to dedicate resources.